Hi, I'm going to walk you around my coating vertex material shader. It's a dual material vertex material shader that has a coating material on top such as snow or grass. It's optimized for Unreal 4 and it uses 16 texture sheets so that it's maxed out. The roughness, metalness, and occlusion maps are channel packed into one texture. Now with here, you'll see that when you instance the base material, the parameters are organized by layer or channel, and the tessellation amount at the bottom. This is the actual coating layer amount so that you can dial it back based on the height map of whatever's underneath it. Now as the number goes up, it becomes significantly less, but as you go to higher amounts, it's less and less disappearing each time. Now if you go to 0, it covers the whole thing, and then obviously, go all the way up and it relatively disappears after one point. This is if you don't want it to follow the axis mask, it's using the world axis, which you can change at the lower. It says cover axis mask down there. You can change which way you want it to be masked by, and you can invert it as well. So as you see, even though it's now covering the whole thing, it's now ignoring that mask and powering it throughout it. This is the tessellation height, so as you dial it back, you'll see the tessellation displacement diminish. It's, I believe, using flat tessellation. Now if we go over to the moss instance that I made, which is just placeholder of moss as well. All of these are placeholder textures and materials. You're more than welcome to use whatever you want. Just instance, drag and drop, and it's ready to go. So as you see with the moss_s, that's the texture packing. So if you want fuzzy moss, you can dial it up. But I felt with moss, it was with the normal map and the height map that I used for it, it doesn't tessellate very well. Or displace very well, I should say. So the moss, just like the snow, follows the masking techniques. This is to show more of you can make it significantly more contrasted, for more higher contrast for like the moss going into specifically the cracks and stuff. This is it being masked by axis now. So I'm just going to lighten up the occlusion and shadow just a bit to go to the base material. Yeah. There we go. That's a little bit better. So everything is set so that you can go for a min-max texture sheets and then be able to dial it back, or whatever you'd like. You can actually pump out a lot. So you're going for the brick shadow. For some reason I think the light map on the moss sphere got that black band in it from the lighting being baked into it weird. So now here's the fall off for the axis mask. If you turn it up, it goes higher up, so it'll sit up higher. And as you go up, it'll peak out more and more and more, so it has to be more of an upward facing, at least as long as it's masked in the blue channel, which it is now. So and then the contrast is how much do you want to fall off of that line. And then, so this is the mask invert. So if you set it to 0, it actually would, this is for the base, if you look at the stone at the bottom, it set it to be on top of the stone instead of in the stone. If we go to red, we set it to 0, it'll be on top of the brick. Sorry, not the stone, the red channel will be on top of the brick, but I would need to change the coating amount because it doesn't quite work for that height map. I have to fiddle with the couple of the ones. This is the color mask, so I set it to white so it allows the color to be changed for it. You can put in, it's just using an all white texture sheet right now, so if you put in a, color mask, you can do a detail colored mask, and that way you can instance the same object and be able to change its details and stuff like that using a color mask if the same object uses the same material or texture sheets. So here we are for the stone. Right now I'm just using the white and black texture sheets as kind of bools to show you its capabilities. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I have to turn off the color, because that one is actually using a color mask. The original stone was like white and just wasn't rendering well. So these are using some of the rocks from the Unreal base meshes that they give you in the starter packs. And I just kind of moved them around and piled them together and then put the materials on them. With these ones though, I had to change the texture coordinates, which is easy to do since it's just going off of a parameter, and all you have to do is change the red and green. Oh, whoops. Hold on, just kind of screwed that one up. You only have to change the red and green numbers to however many times you want it to tile. If you want it to tile bigger, you make it a smaller fraction. So that moss was not, it was too big of a texture. This again uses the same styles of the other ones. So as you dial it down, the moss will cover it more. Unless these models, it's with how they're kind of jagged, the tessellation kind of breaks apart. Probably wouldn't use tessellation on these models, but this is just a demo. Just to show, as you dial up the contrast of the height map, the masking of the moss is much more refined. It's a harder edge of that mask. So as you dial it down, it kind of you get more of a fall off, a softer fall off. And this is it with the snow. It's essentially doing the same thing, but if you rotate it, it'll actively correct itself for the shader to always be up or down, or whichever way you want to mask the axis by. It'll always follow the world settings to it. So in Unreal 4, you could actually set this to be a movable object, and it would render or it would bake the light maps into the ground, I believe, so that I do this. This is their little sculpture that they put on the table all the time. It's usually glass. I just thought it looked good with the shader. It showed how it would look over a more of a smooth, not so much of like the rocks. But yeah, so that's the shader. Just a couple examples and showing the flexibility of the parameters. But let's show the vertex side of this. So if you come in and you can paint in from the base layer to the red layer, which is the brick, I can paint it in and out, and you can use the Vertex Painting tools to the fidelity of whatever you're painting on into the, however many vertices you have. And the snow will actually, or the coating layer, will mask itself based on whatever's underneath it. See, as we just lightly tap it out there, so it blends a little bit better, the snow. The coating layer makes a great blending tool in between the two. But you can also control that blending in the on the right. There's a red channel section that has the ability to modify those the numbers, the math for the blending between the two layers. Now, if we change this to be all brick or all stone, you can paint it either way. And this is it with the moss, so you can show it transitioning. I really like the way that these two materials blend together. You can also see the bricks, how they're smaller on the second material on this, which is by the Unreal, or the Unreal logo on the front. Yeah, you can see that tessellation. I'm really happy with the way the stone turned out. But that's just texturing. You can use whatever materials you want for this. And Andrew Maximov actually made a great script for Photoshop for channel packing. If you don't know how to do it, it's a very easy way to implement it. And I'll put a link below to his site, which talks about the channel packing for optimizing your materials. And he also has great talks about PBR, and he's a pretty cool guy if you've ever met him. Shout out to the Polycount meetup every year at GDC for that. I was trying to see if I could do a weird masking, but this just masks it to the front, which is generally the same. Okay, so time to show you guys the actual meat of this. So that's the whole overview of it. And this is just the albedo. So you have your texture coordinates and your base color and the masks next to it. And that lerp I was going to use later, but it would go over 16. So you'd get an error if I hit apply. You get an error from this. But you use the color mask, which is white for stone or the base channel, and black for the other ones right now. But I talked about that earlier. So it's kind of a bool right now for me, just for trying it. Now, here's the normals. You can, if your normals are too strong, you can always dial them back by raising the number on that normal flattening one. And then that coating normal blend right there, that's for blending between the coating and whatever's underneath it. It'll blend the coating or the snow normals to it. And these are the channel packed ones. So there's red, so that's for roughness, metalness, and then the height map or the occlusion, which kind of looks like a height map, but it could be used as one, to be honest. The height map for that actually looks. And then these are just the lerping in between them, and then and that little spider web to the right goes to the correct set. Each of those two are the lerps for each of their specific ones. And these are just clamps so that I can organize based on, the channel packing section there, below it the height maps, for the powering of the masking or the lerps. So yeah, that's like that one just only controls snow, and this one, or the coating, and that controls the lerping between the underlying layers. So this is the red processing. Again, texture coordinates, same parameter. Goes through to your height map. You can invert it there, so if it's on top or on bottom, So right now it's on, so white is where it's going to show up, black is going to be where it's not. So then you've got the masking power. This is kind of an easy way to control the fall off of it, where you want it to be, if you want it to be higher or lower. And this is cheap contrast, so you know, just how crisp do you want your masking to actually be. So you use that as you will, and then you're multiplying it by the vertex color so that if you paint it out, it won't be there. So the red channel wouldn't be there. And then it's added by the red channel again so that the mask of the underlying channel would go away after a certain point. And then, so we duplicated this essentially to the coating mask for both the base and the red channel coating masks, and then there we're just looping it literally by the red, which we could actually probably use the red channel mask from above. I'll actually change that before I publish this. So this is using the axis, so you have your world normal and then you're multiplying it. So that's the inverse. So you can flip it, and then your base, so which is the height, you're multiplying it by that, so that you're multiplying it again so it remasks it by whichever you've originally masked it by, so you're not getting a hit on the top and the bottom. And then this is just a really, then you have the contrast, and this is just a really overly done bool for essentially turning on and off this axis mask. So I'm actually just gonna put a comment. There we go. And yeah, that doesn't do anything. Goodbye. You can never be done with anything, I swear. So yeah, that turns it off, and then so in the end you have this mask which you have a bunch of control over, and you're multiplying it by the green channel, just like we were doing earlier, and then by the lerp. The thing is that it's instead of it being controlled by painting, you're controlling it by that height, or the cover amount that I showed earlier in the actual physical demos. So again, we have the world normals. If you don't know how to use world normals for displacement, this is a very easy way to set it up. And then we're lerping them together the same way we were before. So this is just using the height maps, and they're plugged into the world displacement, and then the tessellation multiplier, or the poly count. So as you go down, these material preview or demo spheres, or whatever you want to call them, from Epic are fairly high poly, so this is kind of just overkill at this point, but you know, 5 is way more than you would really need. I'm actually going to set it to 0 initially, so that it doesn't have to be changed every time you import it into your project files. But yeah, this is the base material, how it looks. The other ones are a little messed with, so you can easily turn on and off the tessellation right there. So that's the flat tessellation. So if you can't use tessellation, or you don't want to, you can always duplicate it for that. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy this material or shader. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at garrettspenst@gmail.com, and if you have any inquiries, do the same. My portfolio is garrettspenst.com, and I hope you have a great day.